It's time, everybody. I finally came up with the title too. It's pretty simple, but I mean, for my YouTube, for my YouTube friends and family, I'm pretty sure they'll probably love this title, and they'll probably, and they'll probably love it. They'll probably really agree on me on this. I call it Top Favorite CDs. There you go. Right? I mean, that's pretty simple. I mean, I could be, I could have lazily had done some other title, and it probably wouldn't have many of people watching. Well, okay. So here we are, the first video here of my series, Top Favorite CDs. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically do as much as I can with doing videos. So I kind of, just for the heck of it or whatever, I gathered up quite a number of CDs. And like I said, I had another good laundry list of other CDs I'll be buying, so I can present it here in the series that I've listened to either on YouTube or Spotify or whatever. Well, Spotify, I've gotten rid of that, of course, but I'm talking to this. I'm talking to my imaginary friend here. That's kind of kind of wanting to get into my conversation. But whatever. Yeah, so, of course there'll be many more CDs along the way. So let's go ahead and get started, shall we? So my first one here, and we're going to start from the A's. Well, yeah, from the A's, and just how much I can cramp in or whatever, because I really don't want to talk too much. Obviously the video is going to be long, but maybe this first one might be pretty long, but well, not pretty long, but I'm just kind of thinking, well, maybe to 15-20 minutes, And yeah, so let's start off with my very first one to show here, and that is, hey, look at that, the Allman Brothers. That's right. Who does not know? Anybody out there, anybody that is a huge classic rock fan, or just have listened to some great music, during the late 60s and early 70s period, who in the hell does not know the Allman Brothers? Now, I do got to say, this is from my dad, and but I've listened to this, of course, several times or whatever, and we got a few other CDs from them. Yeah, so this is 1973. Now, this is kind of an early CD, as you can see. Remember, since this was something that my dad bought back, I'm pretty sure in the late 80s, early 90s, I'm pretty sure you folks remember that the CDs, the early CDs used to look like that. But man, what an album. And they got the little girl there, kind of smiling. I think that was, I'm trying to think, who is that girl in front of it might have been either it might have been maybe Dickie Betts, maybe Greg Allman's daughter, or not daughter, but I'm pretty sure that's the brother there, because the album is called Brothers and Sisters. Now, this has some great stuff on it, by the way. And you know what, Allman Brothers, I've heard a lot of people saying that the Allman Brothers are better as a live band rather than a studio, rather than listening to their. Actually, I've heard people saying that Allman Brother live song, like when they do their songs live, are way better than the actual studio versions. But I kind of disagree, though, to somewhat of an extent. I do love their. I've actually watched some of their live performances, and they're actually really, really great. But man, you can't go wrong with listening to an Allman Brothers album, right? They were really such a great, kick-ass, classic, just Southern rock band, just like Lynyrd Skynyrd for sure. A little bit of that Grateful Dead edge into them a little bit too as well, but they were fan-damn-tastic. Johnny Sandlin was the producer of this album. Okay, and it says dedicated to a brother, Barry Oakley. But man, what an album, right? You have their great, if not one of their probably most well-known song, Ramblin' Man. Just, oh my goodness. Lord, I was born a rambling man. Gotta love that great solo, man. And that's the sad thing about the Allman Brothers, man. What a the tragedy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's been so much bands, you know what I mean, that were just on top of their game, and then all of a sudden you have these great performers. I mean, Dickie Betts, out of all people. You had him, and you had the other Allman, you know, and Greg Allman too. How they all kind of died, like kind of in that same kind of period of time. You know, you had Dickie Betts. He died at such a young age. I mean, guys like him, guys like Graham Parsons. I mean, how do they die so young like that? You know, I think he was like in his mid-20s or something like that. You know, it's crazy. Yeah, and of course Jessica. Oh, I love Jessica. That great instrumental on this album. But what great stuff! I could go talking a lot about that. But man, Allman Brothers is kicking it off here. My top favorite CDs. Okay, now it's time for one band. Now I feel like most people, this is kind of one of those soft rock bands. Well, yacht rock they call it now. Well, I mean, it's kind of another terminology, I guess, of the soft music or whatever. But, you know, I feel a lot of people seem to be very, you know, they feel like this band is just so corny, but they're so good at what they do, like, you know, and it is actually America. Yeah, I know. There are some people out there who really hate America, and then there's some people who actually, there's a good minority of people that actually do. It's kind of in between. A good minority of people who hate America and some that actually do love America, and I'm actually kind of one of them. Now, you know, if you buy The Greatest Hits, which was like the history of America, whatever, there you go. But I really think their albums are actually really pretty damn good. You know, I would say maybe like Hearts, you know, because it came in this like 5-album classic series or whatever, and it starts from their first one all the way to Hearts. Now, yeah, I mean, Hearts is kind of okay, but then they got really cheesy when they started doing songs like what's that one album? And I've done a video as well that I did where I was really praising on America. But I understand some people having differences on, especially America. But this first album I absolutely really love. It's got a little bit of that. I would say a little bit of that. I would say kind of eye-rolling, with the lyrics, however, because I feel like their lyrics are, kind of a little bit in between. But man, what's some, look at that, some great dudes right there, man. You got, you had what's his name? Beckley. You had Beckley right there, and you had I think that guy. I think he died. It was like 2010 or something like that. Way long. It was kind of a very long time ago when he passed or whatever. So these two guys are the only remaining in America. But man, so like I said, kind of eye-rolling stuff or whatever. But I'm telling you, some really top-notch stuff here. Yeah, Dewey Banal, I believe. Dewey, I believe that's him right there. And Jerry Beckley, the one with the glasses, that's Jerry right there. In the middle, what's his name? I'm trying to think of. See, I'm looking at the back of the album, so the printing is so small. You see, Dan Peek. Yeah, Dan Peek was the one that passed away in whatever it was, sometime in the early 2010s. But yeah, I mean, how many times have we heard A Horse with No Name? I still like that song. I Need You, I don't know, but that's some top-notch stuff, like The Flowers Need the Rain. But some great stuff, though, and I love Sandman. That's got to be one of my favorite from theirs, And, you got some beautiful, they played Dewey Banal, he's playing a six string on the opening track, Riverside, which is a really great song. And there's like one song that I really absolutely love, and it's Rainy Day. Dan Peek, I believe he's the one that's singing it. But yeah, some great stuff, but it's actually really worth. I mean, you got that California, you got a little bit of that, Laurel Canyon or whatever that, genre, if you will, the Laurel Canyon, a little bit of that Southwest, a little bit of that, I'm trying to think what else, Crosby, Stills, and Nash, you definitely got some great harmonies and some really some great instruments playing on this album here. And yeah, good stuff. And I also have their other one as well, which I think is probably another really great one you should check out as well, is Holiday. And this was from like 74 or whatever. This was like 71, kind of, into early 72. This one's like 74. And, it's got Tin Man. Now, this was actually produced by George Martin, which when you hear some of those tracks in there, you definitely hear that he's in that producing booth or whatever, that recording booth, kind of. And it's so cool too. Like, it's got the little back thing too, because it's meant to be just like a thing you put on the shelf, like a portrait or whatever, And it's got Tin Man. I really like Tin Man, and I really like Lonely People. Though once again, it's got a little bit of that eye rolling kind of, But I like it though. It is actually. But let me read what else. I know there's some other really good ones on here. Oh yeah, you got kind of one track that's kind of a little bit goofy, whatever. And I think it's like Old Man Took or something, or maybe What Doesn't Matter, where you got the voice overdub. It sounds like he's talking out of a megaphone or something. It's kind of whatever. But some good stuff. I like America. Now, speaking of Southwest, now there's a little bit of history for this CD I'm about to show you. It was about 6 years ago. It was my mom, it was me, and my sister. We went up to Arizona to visit my uncle on my mom's side. And my mom's got two brothers. She's got an older one and she's got a younger one. The younger one lives in Arizona. So we went over there, and this was July of 2019. That summer. So we stayed over in their house. They had a little guest room, and I stayed in there we stayed there for, I would say, about a week. And then we went up to New Mexico, because my she's got a really, really good friend that she knew for a very long time. And it was her and her husband that was getting married. To her best friend and her husband over in, I'm trying to remember what part, Albuquerque? It might be somewhere kind of maybe the outskirts of Albuquerque, or kind of out there, whatever. So during that whole, obviously from Florida to Arizona, of course, we obviously had to fly, right? And then we drove, or my uncle, and my mom, my uncle, drove us with my mom, me, my sister, my younger sister, and my younger cousins, drove all the way to New Mexico, and coming back to Arizona, where my uncle lives or whatever. I think it's in kind of a little bit an hour of Phoenix or whatever. We went to this really cool gift shop. It's kind of like this Indian kind of, because we were out in the west or whatever, so, and this definitely has a bit of that, Western vibes, that, I don't know what you would call it, Cherokee kind of. And I stumbled upon this CD here. Now, there's not much, really a whole lot of, stuff about this artist here, Jeff Ball, but I think he plays like a flute instrument, kind of like a wood instrument. And you got some really, I was like listening to this not too long ago here in my boombox. I don't know if you can see. I have a little small boombox, and sometimes I come out here to listen to music. And one day I put this on and I was like, wow, this is some really great stuff. It kind of reminds me a little bit too, as well, maybe, and now this is very loose of what I'm saying here, but very much like a little bit Michael Martin Murphy, maybe, a little bit. But this stuff is actually like I can like list I can sit here with my eyes shut, or maybe even with the lights off, listening to this thing, and it can transport me to where we were in Arizona, like right there, Arizona, New Mexico, and it's some really great, brilliant stuff. I mean, this really transcends you into like those big, big mountains, and all that great, just miles upon miles of, yeah, just like mountains and peaks and stuff, and we saw a good chunk of cactus as we were driving by, just like a whole just entourage of cactuses or whatever. But man, what's some great stuff, I gotta say. Jeff Ball, and I think the album is Prairie Runner is the CD here. So if you check it out, or maybe, I believe, I don't know, it was Indian Creek, I believe it was called. That was the gift shop where I got the CD. But it's some great stuff though. If you like that kind of whimsy, that Cherokee kind of thing, whatever, Yeah. And Red Feather Music, that's kind of familiar, right? I don't know if maybe some of you folks are familiar with that label. But yeah, good stuff. Okay, now, got another really great CD I want to show you here. And it came with a twofer. It's a 2-for-1 kind of thing. And what a great name too, The Band. I mean, it's just, whoever came with that on the fly, or whatever, whoever came up with that name should win an award, because I got The Band. That's right. Wow, I mean, this one right here, I mean, what could be said? No words. But you know what? I kind of do like this one too. But when I listen back, there's always something special about Music from Big Pink. And of course, this was painted by Bob Dylan, But man, I first heard this album, I was completely just completely in just joy, just completely like cloud nine, just absolutely stunning music. I mean, just like, even though people claim it's kind of a bit overrated, I really don't think so. For those people who are saying that, but man, Music from Big Pink, what an album. I mean, what could be said with the tracks? I mean, you got Tears of Rage, God, a great opening track, and then after another with, To Kingdom Come in a Station. Got The Weight on here, which I know, that's kind of a bit applauding song, but it's still a great damn song. If I want to listen to Music from Big Pink, I'll listen all the way through with also listening to The Weight as well. And man, what a excellent way to end the album with I Shall Be Released. The Bob Dylan song, right? Obviously, Bob Dylan wrote it, and, man, some really great stuff. Robbie Robertson and, Levon Helm. But, and again, I do also love the Brown album as well, because I think it has a little bit more musicality. But man, there's nothing can be said about this great album here. And I think this is definitely my favorite band album. Indeed. Yeah, and you got the 2 on each CD there. Okay, now I'm going to talk about my last one here as we're rolling into 20 minutes. But you can't go wrong with this band here. Now, I know some people are very mixed about this band, and I know some people you know, I think there's definitely a lot of people who are very, very, very negative on the Beach Boys. But man, but many people though, many fans of the Beach Boys. I mean, with people that were so hooked into their music, felt so depressed and very isolated and very and again very sad about Brian Wilson's passing. I mean, thank God I have this CD here, which is the Beach Boys Classics by Brian Wilson. And man, what a genius, man. What a freaking genius Brian Wilson was. I mean, when we lost him, people felt isolated and depressed, and many people were very absolutely touched by Brian Wilson's movement, the way he, especially when he was finally in the forefront after after they had fired their dad Murray. He was really in control. Like, he was really just making sure that mix is perfect to his ears, and making sure that everything was so just like was completely what Brian Wilson wanted. And there's no doubt about that, right? Of course, he was a genius. I loved the chord movements as well. Just fantastic stuff. And I do have the Beach Boys Today, which is actually one of my favorites on here. And I think this is when they were getting quite serious, on their music, I believe. It was kind of like their Rubber Soul kind of. With the opening track, Do You Want to Dance? Yeah, okay, starting off with kind of an upbeat kind of, I wouldn't say that's probably my favorite song from theirs, or at least my favorite from the album, but man, you got When I Grow Up to Be a Man, and Dance, 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 and Please Let Me Wander. Damn, and then you got that second side too, where it's like, it starts off with that innocence, kind of like, their first romance, but then, man, when you get into that second side, it's just like, man, it really shows like now it's time to really, really grow up, And you do also get the last track, which I think, to me, even though this is a really, really great album to listen to, but I just don't think the opening track and the last track aren't really as good. Like, you know what I mean? But I feel like that's most. But you know what I mean? Then again, I feel like that's most people that listen to the Beach Boys. They kind of feel like, they feel like, okay, well, this isn't like a great band. They're kind of like, But no, I really feel like they are really, really great, top-notch performers. And you got the great Wrecking Crew as well, So, and speaking of the Wrecking Crew, can't go wrong now. This is obviously, now of course, this is like the album, right? The Beach Boys album. That I'm pretty sure most people would probably, no matter what it is. Of course, it's always on their top favorite, or albums that's clearly on their when I die list, kind of 1,000 albums to listen to before you die, or whatever, is of course that album being Pet Sounds. Now I feel like Pet Sounds is one of those albums where I can just sit, that I really need, just like that Jeff Ball CD that I showed you. I can sit down with the lights off, and I can really just focus on the instrumentation, really listen to every little brass section going on. Like, there's some great brass players on this album, and like I said about with Brian Wilson being, when he finally really got, where he finally became the kind of somewhat the brain of the Beach Boys. He really got these guys, really getting these guys to where they, on the level of what this album really was, I mean, with the great sounding, like I said, the instrument, with the great vocals and stuff, and just like they were really, Brian Wilson was just really trying to really make just a brilliant album, and I really think, without a shadow of a doubt, is probably one of his, if not the Beach Boys' best album, in my opinion. I mean, starting off with Wouldn't It Be Nice? God, I absolutely love Let's Go Away for a While, and God Only Knows, and he ended off with Caroline No. Just Brian Wilson, man, just what an amazing, what a great lyricist too as well. Well, not all the time, but I really think with the lyrics here, I feel like they're definitely just absolutely great lyrics. And he really, because he was, with his wife Marion, he was really, really focused on romance and being able to evolve and really be a great loving person, I would say. And this is probably I'm pretty sure this is a soundtrack to probably everybody's life back then, and even now, right? Just great stuff, except for that album cover. I wish they would have perhaps done a better album cover, but Brian Wilson, man, we'll miss you. Great stuff, and I love what I have right here with the set of CDs that I have. So until then, hopefully I'll be back to do another second video, whatever, for the series. Till then, okay, folks, take care and bye-bye.